There we go. Welcome to the Five Reasons Postgame Show, brought to you by the Five Reasons Sports Network. With me today after this finally a good Heat win, we got Ariel, we got Gad, we got Brian. How you doing, guys?
Doing all right.
Won.
Yeah,
Finally won.
Got that dub.
And it was a good win too. It was a blowout. I think it's our first blowout of the season, if I remember correctly. Both Bam and Jimmy Butler ended up with triple doubles. Tyler Hero ended up with 27. Kelly Olynyk with a great bounce back game. Kendrick Nunn coming back with a good game as well. So Ariel, I'm gonna throw this one to you. There was a lot of high points in this game. Which one do you think was the most important for us to pull out this win today?
I thought that the offense looked really, really good, and that was good for them to kind of get back on track and at least feel the taste of victory again, right? Like, it's not like we beat a really, really good team, so I don't know how much you really want to take away from this. The Kings defense is pretty putrid. It's just awful. But, I mean, the ball was moving really well. Tyler came off the bench and just had it cracking from the go. Right, like he had everything working. He had the jumper going, the pull-up jumper from three, the mid-range. He was getting to the rim, going left, going right, finishing with the left. So that was really, really encouraging. And Kendrick Nunn also was a really a good bright spot in my eyes. I thought he had a really good game. Continued a pretty solid stretch of strong play. Jimmy, what more can you say? The guy's awesome. And those are my positive takeaways.
Yeah, I mean, the first time, I think it's the first Heat player to have 3 straight triple doubles, and he's catching up to LeBron James now. I think he has 6 or 7, and LeBron has 9. So he's on his way to get there. I could really see him passing him this season. Gad, I'm gonna throw this one to you. Ariel mentioned Kendrick Nunn. He seems to have found his confidence again. He doesn't hesitate as much anymore. He knows when to make his passes. What do you like from what you see about Kendrick Nunn?
I mean, he's just playing hard. Like, that's 90% of what this team's problem is. Like, often is we just don't have all 5 guys playing hard. So seeing the whole team do that tonight was pretty cool. We had a few stretches in the second quarter where we just forgot how to box out, and they had like 3 offensive boards in 1 possession. But outside of that, yeah, I mean, I like Nunn's aggressiveness. He's definitely getting better. Like, overall, he's like improving pretty much all facets of his game. Like, he hit that one really nice pass. I think it was like a left hand, like a laser to the paint. It was to like Iggy or Olynyk. I don't really know who it was to, but like he's making nicer plays. Like, he looks like more of a team oriented basketball player. It's not like he's just hunting for those rookie of the year stats. So, I mean, I'm happy with the way Nunn played. I don't really have many complaints about the way anybody played today. So, all smiles right now.
Yeah, I mean, all smiles for sure. You talked about it with Kendrick Nunn. He's really just found his flow in the offense. He's starting to become a little bit better of a passer. Let's get to the top 2 guys on this team. Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo, they both ended up with triple doubles. Brian, which one of the 2 do you think was more impressive with the triple doubles?
I think they were both equally impressive. I mean, they had really similar numbers. Jimmy with 10, 13, or 13, 10, and 13, and Bam with 16, 12, and 10. I actually was surprised that Bam had that many assists in the fourth quarter. I mean, it looked like he was, as usual, trying to be a facilitator and get guys, in rhythm. But, I mean, they both looked really, really good on nights where, your top 2 guys have triple dubs. Those are nights where you should win, and they did just that. So I'm happy.
Yeah, man, it's a great day. After coming in after such a disappointing loss, it's good to finally have a good win back under our belt. And Ariel mentioned that it is against the 28th worst defense in the league.
Nah, that's got to be 30th.
Probably
no
now,
way.
100%.
Yo, that
We should be 30th.
We really should be. We might be on that level. But it was a game that we also saw Duncan Robinson kind of step up a little bit. He missed a couple open shots, but he ended up with 20 points. Ariel, talk to me about what you saw from Duncan Robinson this game.
I really have no idea I had no idea that he had such a good game. What did he end up with? He had 20 points and he made 5 threes. Dude, I felt like he was not having a good game. I don't know if that's on me, but I felt like he had some open looks, at least in the first half, that he didn't get to. With him, I just feel like it's a matter of Spo finding a better way to kind of free him up a little bit more. He struggled a little bit this season compared to last season, but if you look at the numbers, like, he still profiles as a really, really good 3-point shooter. And so it was good to see him have it going tonight. And yeah, like 5 for 11 from 3, 20 points. That's a really good game. You would take that every single night if we could. And so I don't know how he did it. I don't know if that's just me. You guys can let me know if you felt like that was something that you noticed all game. But I kind of felt like I thought he didn't have a great game, and then I saw that he had 20 points. So we'll take it. That's good.
Yeah, I mean, I felt like a lot of his shots came after we were already blowing them out, and when we were trying to blow open that lead, that's when he was missing those shots. So I definitely see what you're saying about there. Really shot well from the 3-point line, but another really high point of this game was the points in the paint. 2 out of the last 3 games, we've scored 70 points in the game. We scored 70 this game. We scored 70 against the Clippers. We scored 56 last night against the Warriors. Gad, how do you feel like this team is performing now that we're starting to attack the paint a little bit more? We used to average about 42, but now we're about,
it seems like we learned something when we played against the Jazz, because the Jazz ball movement is like borderline impeccable. They're so fun to watch. Watching the Jazz play it's beautiful basketball. It really is. And it seems like we kind of got back to what Heat basketball, I guess, is supposed to be, because you see guys like cutting all day. Like Bam, sometimes he'll stand there with the ball on the free throw line and he's waiting for people to cut, and they're just running around at 3-point line. But you saw guys cutting today, and then there would be a cut, and then there'd be another back cut behind it, and you got a wide open layup. Obviously, against the Kings, like Whiteside has no idea what he's doing on defense still, but just being able to not have to shoot threes literally the entire day and being able to score in the paint made me really happy. Like, this team that we played against was very bad defensively, so it makes sense. Like, I'm glad that we were finally able to capitalize against a bad team, but I mean, I'm happy with the way that they at least moved the ball today and got a lot of assists. Like, your 2 best players getting 10 assists, you can't really complain about that. That's some good stuff.
No, I absolutely agree with you. And we had, let me look at it, 36 assists on 49 made field goals. So that's a really, really good assist rate. It's about 75%. You talked about how bad that, the defense is for the Kings. We've played a couple of bad teams before and we haven't capitalized. Brian, do you feel like this win's kind of a fluke, or do you feel like this is really what can be the next step moving forward for the Miami Heat?
I don't think it's a fluke. I don't think it's super sustainable because they're not going to be playing the Kings every night. But I do think that there are things to take going forward, like you guys mentioned, the points in the paint. Like, if you watch a lot of the previous games, the offense was basically Jimmy trying to get to the line or setting screens to get 3-point shots, right? And if the threes aren't flowing or Jimmy's not getting like a million free throws, then they're screwed, right? Just your probability of scoring if you're attacking the paint is just so much higher. And these guys have the talent to do it. I mean, between Bam, Hero has some touch around the rim. Jimmy is a monster inside. I mean, this team definitely has the personnel to kind of switch up their attack and get some points in there if they're really committed to it. It's just, are they going to be committed to it going forward? And I'm not saying that it's going to drastically change their season, but they could pick up a couple wins if they kind of mix up the offense like that.
For sure. I agree with you because the teams don't expect it as much for us to attack the paint. And once we start attacking the paint more, players start drawing in more, it starts opening a little bit more threes and allows us to get better looks. Now, as far as the defense goes, we kind of gave up another random scrub game. What was that guy's name that came in? And
Daquan Jeffries, I believe.
Yes.
I normally he's like a trade piece in 2K sometimes. Literally, he's like the half-star guy that you get off free agency and you just trade him away.
You just get a little half-star, you trade him away.
Yeah.
6 for 6, 5 for 5 from deep in 17 minutes. Ended up with 17 points. I'll let any of you guys take this. Is this really a big problem that we're just allowing guys off the street to come in and have perfect games against us?
It's kind of hard to say. My theory is, like, frankly, I feel like in the NBA, this kind of thing is just going to happen. And it does feel like it happens a lot to the Miami Heat. But I wonder if I watched every single other game every night that I wouldn't see that that's going on anyways. Like, I don't know, man. It's kind of hard. What you definitely can say is that a guy like Daquan Jeffries is nowhere near the top of the scouting report. He's probably not even on the scouting report at all. So it might be a little bit hard you wouldn't expect him to go off, that's for sure. But it's the NBA, man. These guys can play, and the Heat are not a great defensive team, so they're going to give up something on offense, or rather defensively to the other team. It's just going to happen. Guys are going to get free. You close off the drive on De'Aaron Fox, or you close out hard to Buddy Hield, whatever it is. Somebody's going to end up open, and these things just happen. So I don't really know if it's a schematic thing, if it's a coaching thing, if it's a lack of focus thing, or if it's just this is the NBA thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they're all NBA players at the end of the day. These are all guys that go to the gym, throw 500 shots up a day, and they're having the confidence to come in and go in with us against a bad defense in us. And again, I'm going to throw this one to you. I think it was you or Ariel that mentioned the offensive rebounds that we were giving up to the Kings. We gave up 13 offensive rebounds, and I think, like you said, 3 of them was in one quarter, so or one possession. Do you feel like the offensive rebounding is a problem, especially against a team like the Kings?
I mean, it's just because we're switching so often. Like when you have Bam at the top of the key or Precious at the top of the key, then you have guys like Nunn, Hero, and Duncan boxing out, and we already know that's going to end poorly. Like it's just by design almost. That's why I feel like we do need more. We just need more athletes in general on this team that can kind of go up and get a rebound one-on-one if they're not boxing out perfectly. Like, I mean, we're going to see it against the Lakers. Like Montrezl Harrell is probably going to have a field day against our team because this dude is just pure energy and we don't have any of it on the back line. So we definitely I don't want to see as many switches against the Lakers, but I think personnel wise, we're just going to have to. But we'll see how we approach playing against LeBron, but we're definitely going to get a pissed off Lakers team. I'm watching them get throttled right now. So we'll see what ends up happening. But I mean, it worked against the Kings.
Yeah, it definitely worked against the Kings. Let's get into another guy that really had, I think, probably one of the best games of today, just as far as the offense goes. Tyler Hero. Last couple of games, he's just really picked up his efficiency. He started to feel a lot more comfortable. He's Kelly's a replacement. Yeah, Bjelica really played well too. I think he had a season high as well. He had 15 was his season high coming in. Ended up with 25. Oh, okay. So he definitely blew past the season high.
Yeah, he and Kelly were going at it. He and Kelly were going at it for the spot as the starting 4 on the Heat.
They were trying to see which one Pat Riley was going to decide to keep. I want to shout out to Jeff King. When the Heat win, 5 Green Sports win, absolutely. You know what I mean? We definitely feel a lot better. The vibes are a lot better. We're not shaming each other anymore with all these losses. But I appreciate the donation, man. But let's get a little bit more tight here. Like I was saying, he's become an absolute threat as a 3-level scorer. I feel like he's the only 3-level scorer this team has, and he needs to be the guy that doesn't really focus on setting up other players, but focuses on just getting his buckets. What do you guys think about that?
Yeah, I think that's his best role going forward. I mean, that's kind of why I've been saying for a while that I think his, best spot is as that 6th man, as the team's Lou Williams, as you will. When he's aggressive, like Tyler Hero he's a good offensive player. I know that he's had his struggles. Defensively, there are still issues, but I mean, like I mentioned earlier, he has good touch around the rim. In theory, he's a good 3-point shooter. He's been good from the mid range. I think that he got a lot of easy points off of cutting to the rim. Even, yeah, I mean, when he's aggressive, he's a helpful player. I mean, I think that he can continue this going forward and hopefully provide a decent boost off the bench.
Do you feel like he's going to hit that second-year wall? Thanks, Frank, for that donation, man. Appreciate it. You guys think he's going to hit that sophomore wall?
Nah, I mean, I think he'll be fine. Like, he needs confidence, and he's building that up right now. And this 6-man role, he's playing against worse defenders. He's not going against pretty much the best guard defender that the other team's going to have. So if you let Hero kind of just work through how he's supposed to be developing and just give him free reign when he's on offense, then I think he can end up becoming a much better player in the future. So, I mean, I like what Hero did tonight. When he's driving and he's going at the rim, not settling from mid-range every single time, he's a different player. And yes, he's not the most athletic and he has short arms, but the dude is good finishing. He knows how to get the ball in the basket around the rim. So that's really cool. I like seeing that from Hero. That's tonight was a really good night for him to build off of because he wasn't relying on the 3. Yes, like we said, not a great defensive team, but just to be able to do this at the NBA level, I mean, that's a W for Heat fans tonight.
I mean, the other thing go ahead.
Sorry. Oh, thanks. The other thing with Hero is just, when he's coming off the bench, he doesn't have to focus on setting up other guys as much. I think when he was put in that point guard role, they kind of were force feeding him to get those on-ball reps, and definitely that's something that'll benefit him going into, the rest of his NBA career. That he got to have those on-ball reps earlier in his career, but that's really just not who he is. He's a secondary or a third creator at the moment, and that might even be too much, to be honest. But he's a really good scorer, and I feel like a lot of the discourse around Tyler Hero has gotten a little bit ridiculous in that he's gotten almost overrated on Twitter because of the fanboys and all of that stuff, right?
He definitely has.
But if we can just look at it with clear eyes and put all of that to the side, it's a second-year player averaging 17 a game. His three-point shot is down, and he's still able to to score relatively effectively and with a pretty efficient overall shot profile. And so there's a lot to be encouraged with there. He's developing, and he's definitely on the right path. I like very much the role that he's in right now, and going forward, I think that's the best role for him.
I think having guys like Jimmy Butler and Andre Iguodala bullying him during practice is helping him become a better player, because we all heard about the stories about when Hero came in that he was forced to guard Jimmy right away. But I feel like on the opposite end, when he's probably getting picked up by Jimmy in the paint, he's going to have to really learn how to finish and learn how to have creative finishes. And we saw tonight, he finished around Whiteside, he finished around Bagley, he was finishing around everyone. One thing I want to ask you guys, did you guys see that insane deep three that he hit after the foul was called?
Yeah.
That was wet. I was just blown away by his range with that. Moving on to a little bit of trade talk, because I want to talk about this game and how it affects trade talk. Ethan talked about that there might be a trade coming soon next week. As we look at this Miami Heat, kind of like a stock market, Tyler Hero stock rising up, Kendrick Nunn stock rising up, Duncan Robinson stock after this game going up a little bit more. Do you feel like this is a game that'll help us acquire a better player at maybe a little bit of a lesser price?
I hope so. I mean, I think that a smart team is probably going to look and say, just because you play well against the Kings, it doesn't mean that, you're going to be good for our team, long term. But, games like this can only help. So, until we make a trade, I hope that all these guys ball out and play at like an all NBA level, if possible. I would love for a team to think that Kendrick Nunn is, going to be the next greatest point guard in the NBA, or that Tyler Hero is, white James Harden, like a lot of Heat fans thought he was going to be. So that'd be fantastic. I just don't know if it, in reality, actually impacts their stock that much.
For sure. Go ahead.
Sorry, just reading that tweet that the 5 Reasons Sports account put out today, I obviously don't have any inside info, but the way that was worded, saying that it's not a panic deal if there is a move coming, and there's an expectation around the league that a move is coming on the Heat side, and then it's not going to be a panic deal. So that tells me, and again, I'm just speculating, that maybe the kind of move they're looking to make is like a Rudy Gay type move, right? We've seen those reports, maybe a Nemanja Bjelica move, something like that. In my eyes, a move like that definitely doesn't cost you a guy like Tyler, obviously. It doesn't cost Duncan Robinson more than it better not. So I feel like that's probably a smart thing to do right now. I'm kind of more of the mind that, you don't want to let too many of these wins against teams that aren't very good, although we haven't been really getting them this season. If we do start getting them going forward, you don't want to let them kind of trick you into a false sense of security and feeling like, okay, maybe the issues on this roster are not as bad as we thought, or we're getting better. Until we start seeing it against more consistent teams, I don't really know if you want to put any of those assets on the table unless it's for a player that substantially improves you now and someone you can keep going forward and into the future. But if they're going to make a small win now type move, or at the very least improve them a little bit, I feel like a guy like Rudy Gay, Nemanja Bjelica, if the price tag isn't too high, that would make some sense. And that's the way that I interpreted that tweet personally.
I mean, if we think about last year, the move that we made with, moving Winslow and getting Andre Iguodala and Jay Crowder, those weren't two guys that were high prolific players. Of course, Iguodala had the pedigree that he did, but those weren't players that were supposedly supposed to move the needle. But what they did for us coming into our team, learning the culture and fitting into our system, it made us so much more better because it was more about the sum of the whole instead of each individual piece. So it's going to be interesting to see if we get, a Bjelica, a Rudy Gay, or maybe like a Thad Young. I know if Adam was watching this, he's probably shaking his head because he was only saying Bradley Beal, John Collins, and Zach LaVine.
Yeah.
But if we do end up making a marginal move like that, I feel like if we're able to catch fire, like we
You
did
guys
last
are
week
too
with Jay.
positive, man. Like, come on, like
It doesn't mean that much. I agree.
let's not beat around the bush. Let's not act like yes, tonight was a great win because guess what? We haven't felt great lately. But this win doesn't mean anything, man. The Kings don't play in the East. They're not a top 5 team overall. Hey,
Terrible defense.
In reality, what does this do for this team?
But we weren't doing it against teams before. That's the thing. We weren't doing
man.
this against against
Listen,
Washington. We were having
I
slumps.
totally get it. It's 12:35 a.m. I get it. Well, it's ridiculous, guys. I love you guys to death, but Jesus, y'all sound like a dead record right now. Oh, it was great. Did you see Duncan? Did you see Bam? What did we learn tonight? We didn't learn.
Let's see how we do against the Lakers.
We learned that this team got embarrassed last night, and they came back on a back-to-back, and they whooped ass. But against the team, in the reality that half of us can't even spell Sacramento. Like, come on, man. Like, let's be honest here, dude.
I feel like a few of us said that there's not that much that we want to take away from this win, specifically because it's not really a good defense. And, the only real positive that any of us, I think, want to draw from this is the fact that these are games that they've been losing lately.
Right.
And so at the very least, you kind of stopped the bleeding and got a win. And that's got to be worth a little something.
And you also
listen, the Lakers play like crap tonight. That's what we play next.
Let's
wait until then. Let's wait until then.
It's a stepping stone. Like,
I'm with you. I agree.
Clippers G League team earlier this week, so beating the Sacramento G League team is better. I mean,
by the way, guys, great stuff. I waited about 20 minutes, but I just couldn't handle it anymore. Carry on.
Thanks, Maddie.
All right. So let's get into some of the negatives. Let's shit talk this team a little bit. We still gave up 110 points, and Buddy Hield and De'Aaron Fox didn't really play all that well. Obviously, we're giving up way too many offensive rebounds. We're not going to have to deal with Anthony Davis, but like you were saying, Gab, we're going to have to deal with Montrezl Harrell, and we're going to have to deal potentially. I think Marcus Gasol's playing as well, just with bigger centers. So, what do you feel like the biggest issues are with this team? I mean, we all kind of know it's the defense, it's the offense, it's everything. Kind of sound like a broken record, but what do you feel like was the worst part of this game tonight?
I mean, same thing as always. Rotations just suck. Like, we leave dudes open, and I understand most of it is by design, but I feel like we just keep leaving the wrong dude open at the wrong time, and these guys just get hot. Like Daquan Jeffries, Amir Coffey, Garrison Matthews every time he even sees a Miami Heat jersey. Like, I mean, shit like that just happens, but, I mean, we'll get there eventually. We'd still need to make 1, 2, maybe even 3 more trades, and I don't really know if they're going to be like long-term trades, short-term trades. Ideally, they're long-term. If you want to check my name on this stream right now, I'm all aboard the Lonzo Ball train for sure. I'm definitely with that in the future. I think he would be a big help and like would make Hero really, really playable come closing time. But yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting to see how we follow it up against the Lakers. Because like if we lose against the Lakers again, this is really, or if we don't play well against the Lakers, this win means absolutely nothing. But if you're able to win 2 in a row on the road, and then you have OKC, who's not a horrible team, but they're a beatable team, then maybe you have a 3-game win streak and you're going back home. But obviously, we got the first one here, and then next game is the important one. Like, can you build off of that? Because if not, it's just the same shit we've been going through all year. It's just not very good. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, that's the main thing with this team is just the absolute inconsistency. I think Ariel said it last year couple of pre-games when you asked what the identity of this team was, it was actually inconsistency. But let's talk a little bit about Lonzo since Royal's talking about it. Gad, you were talking about it as well. Lonzo's been playing much better as of late. He's picked up his shot percentage. He's already a great defender. Number 2 overall pick. He's coming in. He has a really good pedigree as a point guard. I feel like he would make Bam better. Like you were saying, he would make Hero a little more playable, make Duncan a little bit more playable. I think he would also help raise the ceiling on Precious just because of how good of a lob thrower he is. Steve or Brian, I'm gonna throw this one to you. What do you feel like Lonzo Ball would bring to this team?
Everything you said. I mean, Lonzo Ball, I think, would fit perfectly with this team. I mean, I think the Precious Bam connection would be great. I've said before that I think Bam is a guy who doesn't really have someone to get him easy shots, and that issue is essentially gone with Lonzo. You have a point of attack defender that you feel pretty comfortable putting on anybody. I think even the switching problem becomes a little less scary considering the fact that Lonzo is 6'6",
Mhm.
with a good wingspan. So I think he fills a lot of holes for this team. Personally, I'm all aboard the Lonzo train. I think that another aspect that he unlocks is you don't have to play Tyler and Duncan together, which I think would be great because we know how bad they are defensively. And, in close games, you probably don't want to have those two out there, despite their offense. And, if he can shoot, if he can be a decent shooter, that just works, right? I mean, it just seems like the perfect fit for this team.
He's shooting 1 percentage point worse than Duncan right now from also shooting high volume threes. Obviously, Duncan shoots more, but if Lonzo is shooting like that, you don't really need him to be like your true point guard, although he can be. He can also play off ball with Jimmy and Bam, which helps out a lot. He just fills so many holes with this Heat team right now. I just wonder what you have to give up to get him. I personally don't know. What's the most that you guys be willing to give up to get Lonzo? Honestly, I have no idea.
Good question. Not Tyler. I think
Definitely not Tyler.
Yeah, I mean, Duncan Robinson.
If we're getting Lonzo and we're going to go to re-sign him, I think Duncan Robinson might be what you'd have to give up if you're going to re-sign him. You know what I mean? If that's the plan for the future. Before we move on, I want to thank H&M saying that Ball would go a long way in fixing this defense and Bam wouldn't have to switch so much. I agree on that. We might be able to go back to a drop because Ball is a guy who can fight over screens and then maybe get lucky with Drummond after a buyout. Not sure how we feel about that. We're going to get to that in a little bit. Ariel, what would be the max that you would want to give up for Lonzo Ball?
I don't really. Sorry, I thought I was muted. I don't really know because my thing with Lonzo is, first of all, you've got to decide if you want to pay Duncan this offseason or not. If you don't, then maybe it makes some sense to put him in a deal like that. Because if you're training for Lonzo, you've got to be planning on paying him, first of all. Second of all, I'm with the Lonzo idea. I'm cool with it. I kind of have to see the price tag. I do think that he helps plug some holes defensively on the perimeter. He's a decent, pretty solid shooter. He's gotten better this season. I think he's up to 38% or something on threes. Good passer, good playmaker, really good instincts as a floor general. My one thing there is we've seen this Heat offense be the most effective when they have another guy outside of Jimmy who puts pressure on the rim and gets to the rack, with a certain level of frequency. And with Lonzo, he's not really an attacking guard so much. He's more of a playmaker setup kind of guy, and then he'll take some threes when they're open and when he has a good look and defense collapses off of somebody else's drive. So I feel like if you put him in the starting five, you would lose a little bit of what you're getting with Kendrick Nunn, which we saw more so last season, right? And obviously we saw when we added Goran into the starting five in the playoffs because he got to the rim much more frequently, and that opens up a lot of the Heat's offense to where it's not just Jimmy who's putting pressure on the rim.
I mean, you spoke to it, and it's shown over the last.
I just wanted to
games.
point out.
Yeah, go ahead, bro.
Wait. Okay, there was one comment here that said Lonzo shooting much less volume than Duncan. It's a bit of fool's gold. Now, I understand that's the preconceived notion with Lonzo Ball is that he can't shoot because his first 2 years in the league, under 33% three-point shooter. But over the last 2 years, just for some stats here, last year he shot 6.3 threes a game and hit 37.5% of those. And this year he's shooting 7.6 threes a game and he's hitting on 38% of those. And for perspective, Duncan, who's shooting 8.4 threes a game, is shooting 39%. So, the difference is really not all that much, and Lonzo adds a lot more value on a bunch of different places. Yes, Lonzo is shooting at a really good percentage. So, if you're worried about Lonzo's shot, then that's just invalid argument because right now it's working. And, I mean...
no, he profiles as a good shooter. You're right.
Yeah, he's working as a shooter.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, how many times have we seen players come to this Miami Heat team and just elevate their floor as far as how good of a shooter they are? They become more consistent. We see it with Jay Crowder last year. We've seen it with, Ricky was talking to it a little bit in the pregame about James Jones and those kind of players come in just becoming snipers. And we don't need Lonzo Ball to be a sniper. That's not going to be his main role. He's going to be really mainly a facilitator. On defense, he can be a point of attack guard, a big guard that can match up with a lot of players. And then that'll also put a lot less pressure on Jimmy defensively because a lot of the times he's the one that gets stuck on these guards and he's the one that's having to lock up the best wing or guard offensive player on the other team. So if we have somebody like Lonzo Ball that plugs that hole, so that makes it a little bit better. Now, let's get into a couple other guys. We talked about Bjelica a little bit. We saw him go off tonight. He played really well, really good guy to stretch the floor. Would be nice to get next to Bam, but he's not really a defensive threat. What do you guys feel about that addition to the team?
I feel like he's slightly better Kelly Olynyk. So I'm like, I guess as a marginal move, it kind of makes sense if you can get him for like literally nothing. But I don't think he really raises the floor or the ceiling of this team at all. And if he does, it's going to be by very little. So,
Yeah, it kind of just feels like a move just for the sake of making a move. I'm totally with Brian. I don't feel like he's substantially better than Kelly Olynyk. Maybe he's like a little bit better, but I don't really know. I don't watch enough Sacramento Kings basketball, so don't fault me on that one. But
yeah.
If you're trading away Kelly, then Bjelica makes a lot of sense. But outside of that, it's like he's like a 1-for-1 Kelly replacement, but I don't really see why else we would be like going crazy about Bjelica.
Mm-hmm.
He's just another 4 that really just has a lot of holes in his game, can have some good games here and there, but ultimately is not going to be super consistent, like not going to move the needle for this team. So if you need a Kelly replacement, fine. But if he's the upgrade, fuck this season. I'll be so hot if that's the only thing that we do.
I think it has more to do with the fact that he just fits into their trade exception more than they like particularly need Bjelica.
Yeah. So if you want to cut costs with Kelly, shave like $6 million off there, maybe allocate that to another different trade. Maybe that makes a little bit of sense, but I mean, we'll see what ends up happening. Right. With that, I think it's like a 1-for-1 swap. Like if you can use Kelly as an asset, maybe to get like Alonzo and maybe another player from their team. I don't really know what we'd have to give up, but solid replacement for Kelly.
Yeah. To me, Bjelica seems like the type of guy that you get after you've already made a bigger move. So maybe their interest signifies that they're kind of thinking, all right, well, we have these other deals that we want to pursue, and if we can complete those, then we can go get a Bjelica, because like you said, maybe we had to give up Kelly Olynyk, but that seems to be the only case that really makes sense. I mean, otherwise, like if you just trade for Bjelica and you have Kelly Olynyk already, I don't really know how much he's going to play anyway. So it seems like kind of a weird thing to do, you know, unless you just want the depth, which maybe they do. Maybe they have this idea that, you know, we just need a guy in case Kelly is cold and we can, you know, swap him out and just see who has a better game. I don't know, but it seems like a very, very minimal move.
Would you guys want them to play him over Precious if they got him?
I mean,
say you're just absorbing him into the trade exception and you're sending a second-round pick or whatever it is to Sacramento.
No, if we're playing Precious, if we're playing Bjelica over Precious, I will be up in arms because this is the guy that you can try to develop. And Bjelica is what, like 33 years old? No, I'm not.
Is he that old?
32, yeah.
I'm not.
There's no upside.
Dude. Yeah. Like he's been around the league. He is what he is. Like Precious, we don't know what he could be. Like just let the man play. He tried to kill somebody tonight. Shout out Precious for that. He didn't dunk it, but it was exciting as hell. Like if that was a 9-foot rim, that would have been SP top 10 number 1, bro.
That was like a fake poster attempt because there's no way he was making that dunk. That wasn't close. He was just trying to. He knew he was like, okay, I probably took off too early. Let me make it look pretty, so at least people think I tried to slam on him, but he was never going to get there.
Love the audacity. He has that Max Strus balls. He has the size of Max Strus balls. So he's coming in. Oh, shout out Manscaped, shave your balls. But yeah, HM also mentioned Andre Drummond in the buyout market. We're obviously having clear rebounding problems. Now, he's not a guy that I would really like to play next to Bam, but as a guy maybe off the bench giving you 10, 15 minutes, and you have him, Kelly Olynyk playing together, or him, playing with a couple of guys stretching the floor, he's a guy that can come in and at least secure the ball for you. And if he's playing with Goran, maybe give you some good shots around the rim because Goran is really good at setting up his bigs. What do you feel about getting Drummond for cheap if that's an option for us?
So this is kind of my thing about Drummond is that he is going to be a free agent at the end of the season. So I'm not exactly sure why he would go to a team that is in the playoffs right now to play 15 minutes behind Bam when he can go to the Nets or, another contending team and start and get minutes. Or at the very least, if you're going to go to a bad team, go to a bad team where you can play, like I said, 30 minutes, get your numbers and then get a contract in the offseason. It just doesn't seem to me like that would be super realistic for Drummond to be like I'm playing for a contract, and I'm gonna go to a team where I can't put up numbers and I can't win a title. But I mean, I guess in theory, if he's willing to do that, I don't have a huge problem with it. Isn't he shooting like 45% from the field as a 6-footer or 6'10" guy, taking jumpers? I think he's shooting like 33% from mid range. I'm not super high on that. If he's gonna come here and just jack up shots from 16 feet, not really with it. But if he plays within himself, I guess it can't hurt for 15, 20 minutes.
Yeah, I feel like he can come in, and I wouldn't want him shooting that mid range. I would just primarily want him to be that guy, fiddling up the paint, making sure that you're getting the holes defensively, and securing rebounds like he knows he's a new guy. What do you feel about getting Drummond if that's an option?
Like, as a buyout guy, sure. God forbid we trade for him. I would once again be ridiculously upset. Like, he costs what, $28 million now? Like, I understand he's probably just gonna end up going to help a contender somewhere, whether it's the Lakers, whether it's the Nets. Like, I don't know who it's going to be. I would be very, very surprised if he ended up in Miami. It's not a great fit next to Bam. It limits Precious's development, whatever that development may be. Like, it's a short-term move. Could it work? Maybe. So if it's a buyout, sure. The risk is low. Like, there's really no risk with a buyout, but I'm not trading for him at all. And I would be surprised if he wanted to come to Miami for a bench role. So it's whatever with Drummond. If it comes, he comes. If not, not crazy about it.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, we want Precious to kind of develop into that role anyways. He's not really a natural center, but he has the energy that he could become one and could grow into one. And I don't know if you guys noticed, but in the last game, he's starting to look like he's filling out his body a little bit more. He's not looking so slender. He's starting to get a little more muscular. So it's nice to see him put on a little bit of weight.
Talking about Precious?
Yeah. Yeah, he's starting to put on a little more weight. So.
It's like 30 more pounds if we wanted to play the 5, but if you wanted to play the 4, different conversation.
I mean, we saw him hit some short jumpers. He took a jumper this game. He missed, obviously. But if Bam is able to get out to the three-point line, he's starting to take the jumper a little bit more, but not as much as we want him to do. But if Bam is starting to able to get out to the three-point line, do you feel like Precious can slide into that 4 spot and have it fit seamlessly?
Maybe. One of them needs to develop that distance shooting game. Otherwise, Spo's just never going to do it. He has shown a propensity, well, not a propensity, but the opposite of a propensity to do it with Bam and Hassan, and now with Bam and Precious. It's just never been something he's ever done. And so the issue there is, like, you would have 3 non-shooters in the front court if you played him with Bam and Jimmy frequently. And so one of them's got, I mean, I don't think it's coming this year. It might come next year. I think that's like best case scenario, but more likely would be the year after next. I think is like a reasonable timeline to expect Bam to like add the 3-point shot to his game consistently. And then maybe we'll see it a little bit more at that point.
Yeah.
Or Brian, go ahead.
Brian, go ahead.
Yeah. So I was going to say, I think even if Bam is shooting threes, he has to be a volume shooter or closer to a volume shooter for Spo to feel comfortable playing him and Precious together for extended minutes.
What you think, Ed?
Like, I just don't know. Precious is such a wild card right now. Like, I just don't know where we're going to end up with him. But, I mean, you see potential. Like, he's a really athletic guy. I like his mentality. Like, his mindset is really good when he's on the court. He likes to attack. Like, he's got a lot of energy. He brings, like, kind of that, I don't know, same, like, there's always, like, one guy on the Heat that has that kind of energy, and I feel like Precious is that guy this year, and maybe he is long-term. I just don't really know, like, what his skill set is going to end up becoming. But, like, if we trust the Heat development staff, then he could end up becoming a pretty valuable player, especially as a defender. I think he could become a really, really good defender. Offensively, like, you saw him running the fast break. That was so funny. I mean, I don't know how you thread someone, like, go between your own guy's leg on a fast break, but nah, he's got a chance to be really good. Is he going to fit next to Bam? Maybe not in the most conventional way possible. Like, it's going to be a bit of an awkward fit if they do play together. But I mean, a Bam Precious pick and roll is what I want to see.
Yeah, definitely. That would be interesting.
One of them's got to add the jumper though. Otherwise, like, where that action is going, and it's going to be easy to guard. So that's I feel like that's down the line.
I feel like either one of them could do it. So, like, if one of them develops it, then they're in good hands. But until then, it's going to be tough.
Yeah, it's an awkward fit for sure right now. I mean, we got to remember, Bam's only 23. Precious is in his first year. We have a long time to figure this thing out. Ideally, obviously, we want to win every year. we also have to remember that the team needs to grow as a whole, and we got a lot of young players on this team. We're crossing 40 minutes right now. I want to shout out guys, HM again. Appreciate the dono, man. Guys like KZ and Precious. Let's get to KZ a little bit. We haven't talked about KZ much before we wrap up the show. What do you guys think is the deal with KZ? I mean, we saw against Brooklyn and against Denver, Coach Spo put him on James Harden and Jamal Murray and their best defenders to start the games. And now we're not even seeing a minute on him until we're less than a minute to go in the game. What do you think's the deal with KZ?
He's not ready. I think Spo was just throwing shit at the wall and trying to see what sticks. Like, he's just not ready. We saw in a lot of his opportunities, although they were limited, right? Like, his leash is insanely short. But I mean, maybe it's for good reason. Like, a lot of us, fans and even people who cover the team and whatnot, we like to, say Coach Spo should play this guy more. This guy should play more. Put him in this spot, whatever. But like, at the end of the day, shout out to Alex Toledo. Spo knows what's going on behind the scenes and in practice, right? Like, if KZ's not showing him that he's ready, then that's probably got a lot to do with why he's not playing a lot. And again, we saw it in game. Like, he had a couple of good flashes. He had that good preseason game and then a couple of flashes here and there during the season. But for the most part, he seems undisciplined and he fouls probably more than you would like. And the jumper's not really there yet. And I don't really know what kind of value he really brings to the court right now.
Yeah, I wish there was a G League season this year because I think it would have really helped players like him and Precious just like understand how to use their raw talents on a basketball court, because you see it with Precious, you see it with KZ. KZ specifically, I think, has a lot of basketball talent in him. Like, he can become a pretty good defender in the NBA, and he can also become like one of those slashing wings a little bit. But it's just his IQ is so low. There's so many mental lapses for him that it's really tough for Spo to keep him in. Like, I understand now why he did not play that much. Because, like you said, Ariel, like the fouls, the like just missing rotations, just little things that you need to do when you're in the NBA, he's just not able to do yet. I'm not fully out on KZ. I think eventually he'll become a serviceable NBA player and maybe a little bit more. But right now, obviously, like with a team that is supposed to be contending, there's no reason for him to be on the court. Like, I just wish we had a G League bubble team so we could just send KZ there and see how he could develop, because I think he definitely just needs NBA reps, or like just reps on a professional basketball court, and he's not able to get those right now.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you guys. I mean, I think that KZ has definitely the physical tools, and he, like, we've seen the ball skills too. Like, everything in theory is there for a good NBA player, but like you guys mentioned, just the mental lapses and the lack of experience, and it's kind of a double-edged thing where, on one end, he kind of needs that experience to learn how to operate in a team defense, or, learn when to be aggressive, learn when to cut to the basket and things like that. But, he's not going to get that experience on a contending team. He kind of seems like the type of guy that would be perfect for Sacramento Kings or some other really bad team where he could just play a lot of minutes, and then as the seasons stack up, he gets better and better, and he becomes a decent player, putting all his tools together. But I just don't know if that's going to happen right now, and that's where the G League comes into play. But we don't have that, so he's just going to kind of have to stay behind the scenes, and hopefully he can put his game together over the course of the season, and maybe one day he'll be a functional rotation player.
Yeah, I mean, you've seen the G League help guys like Duncan, help guys like J. Rich, help guys like Hassan. And I felt like guys like Gabe, Vincent, and Max Strus and KZ or even Precious would have really benefited from that. Now, I just want a yes or no answer for this question. I want to wrap it up real quick. We play the Lakers next. Yes or no? Do we win that game? Eric?
No.
Yeah.
No.
It depends if Dennis Schroeder plays, because he'd give us a lot of problems. But honestly, I'm going to say yes. Fuck it. Why not?
I like it.
Ryan?
Yeah, the Lakers are missing guys. I'm going to say yeah.
Yeah, I think we see finals Jimmy Butler. I think Jimmy Butler comes out with a little bit of a chip on his shoulder, and I think we come out and get this win. All right, guys, so let's pay some bills right now. We got a couple of sponsorships. Obviously, we're always sponsored by Tropical Bay, the Biscayne Bay Brewing themselves. So shout out to Biscayne Bay Brewing. Shout out to Manscaped. Make sure you guys shave your balls. Nobody wants a furry, worm
Ball
down
sack?
there. Yeah, nobody wants that. Come on, like, shave your balls, man. If you're not shaving your balls by now, it's 2021. You're left in the 1970s. Like, come on, you got to be shaving your balls. So
Yeah,
shout out.
low key. This man has not gotten a haircut in a while. You can tell too. Anyways,
BlueCaneBabyroom.com, all your South Florida brewery. You know, the number one. I think they also sponsor the Marlins as well. There's a couple other things. Shout out to Manscaped. I think the code for that is 5RSN. Shout out to Prize Picks. It's a pretty easy way to play fantasy. You go in, you pick over or under on a couple of guys, you flex it. So even if you miss on one, you still time and a half your money. That code's 5. Seltzer Mayberg Law Firm, they're another one. Shout out to them. Safe Cubbies, I think, still sponsors us. So shout out to Safe Cubbies. Anything I'm missing? Or you guys remember anything that I'm forgetting?
This is Royal's job, honestly. I'm just here to talk about Lonzo.
Best Ever. Shout out Best Ever. They have the sports simulation betting. I think that's what they do, right? So they have that shout out Best Ever. That's definitely super interesting, having a sports simulation. Manny, is that all of them, brother? Am I missing anything? I want to make sure I pay all the bills. I got to keep the lights on. I'm going to take that as yes. All right. So, we have Ariel, we have Gab, we have Brian. I'm Jonathan. I want to thank you guys all for checking out the 5 Reasons post-game show, obviously brought to you by the 5 Reasons Sports Network. I hope you guys have a great day, and we'll see you guys on the pregame show on Saturday.
Let's get this dub. Hopefully we win.